Hello NHS, Mr. Ward here, and I would like to welcome you to the NHS Community Involvement presentation for the fall of 2020. Typically in the past, this presentation would have been a part of the Grade 9 Community Involvement Fair. Unfortunately, due to public health guidelines, we could not host the NHS Community Involvement Fair this year. As it is a graduation requirement, the NHS Guidance Department felt it was important to continue to bring this presentation to you and recognize a few of the changes that have taken place this year. If you are in grade 9, this will be some new information for you. And if you're in grade 10, 11, or 12, this might sound familiar, but maybe serve as a reminder to you to complete your community involvement hours. Not to mention, there have been some important changes, and I will get to those within the presentation. We'll walk through some reasons why you might volunteer, finding opportunities, and how to fill out your form. So with that said, the first thing I want to go over here is our guidance department. Your counselor will depend on your last name. Some of you in grade 9 may not have been into the guidance department at all yet. I know it's a different year as it is, but some of you still may not have come down or have made an appointment with us. And it goes by last name. So Miss Perrin, as alpha is A to GH. Ms. Bodden, her alpha is GI to I. Mr. Ward, myself, my alpha is J to P. And then Miss Kalea is Q to Z. So if your last name falls within one of these ranges, that will fall or correspond to the counselor who you make an appointment with. Now, making appointments, that is another change that has happened this year. Everything this year is happening through Teach Assist. We are finding that many of our students at NHS are now starting to get a handle on how to make those appointments. Just as a reminder, you can log into your Teach Assist account, and under the subheading Appointment Bookings, you can actually choose your counselor based on last name. So again, Ms. Perrin, Ms. Bodden, myself, and Ms. Kalea, you look for the last name, and then you choose. Click on the day and time you want to have your appointment. For whatever reason, Teach Assist does not allow us to make same-day appointments, so you have to make an appointment for at least a day in advance. And on that appointment, you can put whatever reason. I think you can actually put timetabling, credit counseling, transcript, personal issue within that as you make the appointment. If you need to cancel your appointment for any reason, all you need to do is just click cancel. So if you go back onto your Teach Assist and go where the appointment bookings are, you can just go in there and cancel. You can also let us know ahead of time too. You can also email one of us or email your counselor that you've had to cancel or push your appointment to another date. But it's easy and simple enough to just go in and just press cancel. So that's our guidance department. And let's just dive into reasons why you might volunteer. So many of the reasons why students will volunteer in high school is it is a graduation requirement. You'll need to complete 40 hours of community involvement to obtain an Ontario Secondary School Diploma. It's one of the requirements, along with your 30 credits, right, and your OSSLT literacy test requirement. You have the graduation requirement of 40 hours of community involvement. Now, if you are in grade 12, we'll talk about this in a few slides. This number has changed, and that is a big change. If you're in grade 9, 10, and 11, the 40 hours still stands. So at the moment, you still need to require to reach a number of 40 hours of community involvement. But there are also many other reasons why you might volunteer. We do recognize in guidance that it is the 40 hours are a graduation requirement, but we also want you to recognize that it's an important part of who you are. Volunteering can become part of who you are. Thousands of CEOs, CFOs, COOs all have volunteerism on their resumes. It speaks to their character and their willingness, really, to be a part of something bigger. Volunteering is giving back to the world, giving back to your community, and has so many rewards. On the right-hand side here, I have rewards, tangible rewards. There are many scholarship opportunities. A lot of scholarship opportunities do look for extensive community involvement community involvement activities. I know we had a student last year um, who had well over 1,000. But actually, when we kept tabulating, but it broke our system. We couldn't put in more than 999. But we kept tabulating as she accumulated. And in some cases, those were for scholarship opportunities. And a lot of these scholarship opportunities might be looking for a wide variety of activities, a wide range of community involvement activities that you've completed. But there are many, many cash rewards in some cases for in the scholarship opportunities. Neighborhood Network, who we'll talk about later in the presentation, they offer $500 cash reward to grade 12 students who show outstanding service in their community every year in their Give Back Awards. So there's quite a bit here. You also have that intrinsic. So if it's not tangible and if it's not money, then there's the intrinsic, the feeling you get as you volunteer of feeling good about yourself and helping others and the respect that you get from that. And in many cases, it just makes you feel good, right? Helping your community and giving back to that community and supporting it. So those are some of the reasons why many people volunteer, and in many cases, people get hooked, right? And it could be that self-esteem piece and that good feeling you have. But I just want to briefly now go over some of the big changes that have taken place this year. So students graduating in the 2020-21 school year. So if you are graduating this year, the community involvement graduation requirement is now reduced to a minimum of 20 hours. So if you are graduating this year and you have no hours, you now only need to get up to 20. If you already passed 20, then great, you have met the requirement. You do not need to get to 40. This year, for this grade 12 graduating class, 20 hours of community involvement activities is the minimum. And the reason why they've decided to do that is that they're just recognizing though that there's been many barriers over the last, let's say, year, and then have maybe perhaps continued into this year for students and even in general volunteer. I know we'll talk about opportunities later, but some opportunity there's a lot less than there is in the past. But so they're recognizing that. So again, if you're in graduating year, 20 hours of community involvement. Now, this change here is for all secondary students, so grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. And this slide here kind of talks to how to obtain your community involvement hours, and the changes to which have been considered eligible for this school year. So in the past, if you were trying to obtain hours during a school day, you would not be able to be signed off on. That has changed. So during the time allotted for an instructional program on a school day. So during a school day, if you are looking to complete community involvement hours over your lunch period, you are more than welcome to go ahead and complete those hours. For duties normally performed in the home. So if you have a younger sibling, you can perhaps, let's say, help them with their schoolwork, or if you wanted to tutor them, or if you wanted to walk a younger child to and from school, maybe that is your sibling. Those things can be now counted as eligible for community involvement hours. Here's another big change as well. Students age 14 years and older, you can actually get up to a maximum of 10 hours from paid employment toward your earned hours. So if you have a job and you're 14 years and older, you can actually get 10 hours from working. The piece to this is you'll have to write a reflection exercise. Now the reflection exercise is a paragraph, and in that paragraph, what we're looking for is for you to outline what did you learn during your work experience? What did you enjoy during your work experience, right? You're simply reflecting on your work and how you've learned from that. Right? So that is what the reflection exercise part is to that. So to complete those hours, you would complete the form as usual, and then you would also add to that form the reflection piece, that paragraph on what you basically learned at your job. So that is something new. That is definitely something new this year, and definitely something that has changed. You are continued if you are looking for more hours, and these are not necessarily something you're looking for, then you can still continue to seek out those hours in the community, as long as, let's say, you're following public health guidelines, public health unit recommendations, and school board policies. So if you're able to follow those, if you feel comfortable and you feel safe, then yes, continue to seek out opportunities. These have just been changes because uh, we recognize the fact that, again, like I mentioned, even when we were talking about the 20 hours for grade 12s, there are barriers this year in obtaining community involvement hours. So, completing your community involvement hours. Your first step is to research. Research for opportunities. Now, where can you find opportunities? In many cases, you have to actually go out and research online. There's towns, in towns in Newmarket, towns of Aurora, right? A lot of times those local communities will have opportunities and events that take place. A lot of times that's where those opportunities arise. If you're having trouble finding opportunities, you can always come down to guidance. You can speak with your counselor, or you can check our CI bulletin board. As you enter guidance, there's a big bulletin board with postings of community involvement opportunities. So you can actually come down to guidance, take a look at that bulletin board, see if anything interests you. There's contact information within those. A counselor has looked through those opportunities and made sure, at least before we posted them, that they are a good opportunity for you. Once you've found an opportunity, then you can pick up a community involvement form. This is the same as it is in the past. We have those forms in guidance, so if you're looking for them and you want a paper copy just in holding your hands, you can always come down and pick them up still. So they are opposite of the front desk, underneath that community involvement bulletin board itself, and you can just pick one up. You can pick up 2 or 3 if you have to, and then you take them. So we'll talk about filling that out later. You complete your hours once you have your form. Then you fill out that rest of that form and then hand it into guidance and submit it. There is a basket on the front desk in guidance. You can place your community involvement hours in there. Miss Pressey will ask to see them and make sure the form is filled out properly. And then once she has accepted it, then she can put it in the basket, and then we will get to it in a timely manner. Your counselor will receive it. Your counselor will sign off on it if it is eligible, and then it'll be placed back for submission. Once it has been submitted, you can always come back down to guidance to retain a copy for yourself. So this is that bulletin board I was talking about. It looks a little bit different this year, but this is opposite the front desk. You can always come down to guidance and take a look on it. I continually try to keep updated with it and keep posting here. Things are changing a lot this year, as usual. It's very fluid. There's different opportunities than there was in the past. So if you are looking for volunteer opportunities, community involvement hours, please do not be afraid to come down to guidance. We are only allowing one student in at a time at this point, but you can come down, take a look at the board, take a picture of any opportunities, maybe take a picture of the whole board, and then go back and take a look at what was there. But we will post some of this in guidance itself. Other ways you can find community involvement opportunities. If you go to the Newmarket High School website, under Secondary School Requirements, and under the tab Community Involvement, you'll find this page. So this is the community involvement page on the Newmarket High School website. At the top here you have the letter to families, so community involvement hours update. So that is the letter that went out to families earlier this year, outlining the changes that I just spoke about a few slides ago. So if you wanted to go back and read the letter itself, you can always go to this site, or sorry, this web page, and take a look at it there. It's a PDF. Underneath it, you have community involvement opportunities. So this is a website we have put together at NHS. If you click on the link, it'll bring you to this homepage here, the NHS Community Involvement Opportunities website. At this website, we've kind of updated this year. We've updated to include what the biggest thing this year is virtual opportunities. You have long-term and ongoing opportunities. And then you also have a tab here, we'll talk about neighborhood network. But I first want to go over virtual opportunities. So if I click on virtual opportunities, this will show up. So I have kind of plopped these in here. These are the volunteer opportunities or that have been pasted on sometimes the community involvement bulletin board. But as that fills up, I don't have space, so I'll always continually pop them into this website here. So I can actually go on. If I click on one, it'll show me the volunteer opportunity, where it is, what's happening, what it is, contact info, who would I need to contact to actually get involved. Many of our stuff this year is virtual. So we've seen many letters to elderly, letters to seniors. Sending sunshine here is one that some students have used, and it's actually card writing to many people to uplift spirits in a time or in the COVID-19 era. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of virtual opportunities out there, and many of them are long-term and ongoing. So you could be doing this for a while if you'd like, and if you're looking to obtain a lot of hours, these are good opportunities. So please check out the site. Again, you can always come down to guidance, but it's a good starting point for you to look. I also mentioned you have the towns in Newmarket, you have the towns of Aurora, you have those places in and around the area that do run events. They're not for profit. You have food banks. Those are all good opportunities. Neighborhood Network. This is another great resource for you. If you are in search of volunteer opportunities, the Neighborhood Network should be on your number one list, or be on number one on your list to go and look for. Other than coming down to guidance and taking a look, of course, as well. This is a York Region community-run program or community put-together organization, and they go out and search for opportunities in York Region. So Georgina, East Gwillimbury, Newmarket, Aurora, Vaughan, Markham, those are all York Region, and they'll have events, and you can actually go in. If you make a profile, you can actually filter out to what you want, whether it's by date, by certain types of events, by month, by types of hours, so high school hours. And many of the organizations in here are not for profit, which is an important piece because not for profit community involvement hours are the only thing we are one of the only things we can is one of the eligible opportunities we can accept. We can't accept for-profit volunteer hours. But I'll again, I think I keep saying this, but I'll talk about that when we go over the actual form. But Neighborhood Network, a great resource to go on and look for community involvement opportunities. Some of the opportunities that they actually organize themselves. The Magna Hoedown that typically takes place in September, early September or late August. Fall Food Drive. They put together snow removal programs. Seniors Christmas Concert. I don't know if that'll take place this year, but I know that's something that they usually have put together. Along with spring tree planting. I know spring tree planting was canceled this year due to COVID-19. But these are opportunities that Neighborhood Network actually organizes themselves. And it's unfortunate, again, this year that our grade 9 community involvement fair could not take place because Neighborhood Network would often bring a lot of community organizations in for grade 9s to see and actually even sign up for opportunities. So it's unfortunate, but this is a great resource that you can use to find community involvement hours. So filling out your community involvement form. Step 1. Again, forms are in the guidance office. And your first step to completing the form is to complete the information at the top here. So your name, student number, your high school, telephone number, the school year itself. That is your first part of step 1. The next part of step 1 is to fill out the actual activity itself. So you actually type in, or not necessarily type in, I mean you could if you find the online form. This form itself can also be found. I don't know if I mentioned it last on when we were talking about initiating that community involvement form, but this can be found on the YRDSB website itself in the community involvement section as well. So that is something, it's a PDF, so if you don't feel comfortable coming into guidance to pick one up, or you weren't able to, you can always go on to the YRDSB website. If you search up community involvement form, you'll be able to find it there and print it off, and it'll be accepted. You can also scan them into us this year, scan and email them, but if you can bring it in, the better. Now, activity. So you fill out the activity, the number of hours, estimated number of hours, estimated date of completion, and then over here on the right-hand side, you have your supervisor. So telephone number, organization, supervisor name. You'll write that down in this box here. So those are your step 1, your information itself, what activity you're doing, the estimated date and number of hours that you'll possibly complete, and then a telephone number and the name of your supervisor. That's step 1. The second step is now you go out and actually complete your activity hours. So you actually go out, complete your community involvement hours, and then you'll actually write in here now in step 2 the number of completed hours. You filled out this prior. Now you actually have a number of completed hours, so you'll fill this portion out. You'll get a signature from your supervisor. And there might be even some comments like great job. And at the bottom left here, this is an important piece because I know oftentimes we'll have students come in without this signed and we have to send it back. Your signature and then a parent guardian signature. So that's step 2, completing the number of hours, getting a supervisor's signature, and then having a student or parent or guardian sign it at the bottom left here. Again, important piece. Step 3, once you've submitted to guidance after step 2, it'll be school approval. So once it's submitted to guidance, it'll be taken to your counselor. Your counselor will take a look at the activity, take a look at whether it was eligible or ineligible, and then approve it. Once it's approved, then it'll be submitted into the system. Now, what types of activities are eligible versus ineligible? This is a very important piece. And in some cases, before you go out to complete your community involvement hours, you must check the back of the page. So this is the back of that community involvement form. If you flip it to the back, this is what you'll get. It'll show you what types of activities are ineligible and what types of activities are eligible. And if you'll notice here in the top left, it might be a little bit difficult to see, but I've highlighted it. Types of activities that are ineligible. The biggest one that we see is involving any work for a for-profit organization. Now, one of the changes this year was that you could get 10 hours of paid employment from your employer. That's when you're being paid to work there. If you volunteer at a place that is a for-profit organization, let's say a restaurant, for example, they're making money, making profit, and you're volunteering, strictly volunteering for them, it's basically you're taking a job from someone. So we cannot sign off on those. So if it's for a for-profit organization, that is typically the biggest one that we see. Unfortunately, we cannot sign off on it. Now, we've had students in the past come in, they do 200 or so hours, 300 or so hours at a for-profit organization, and unfortunately, we can't sign off on them. But they're still good experiences. So if you do happen to get in a situation where it is maybe for a for-profit organization, you could maybe possibly turn that into a resume building experience or even just a general growth experience for yourself. But unfortunately, we would not be able to sign off on those hours if they were for a for-profit organization. Now, if you're looking for a non-profit organization, you can think of like a town. A town in Newmarket would be a not-for-profit organization if you're looking for events for them. If you're doing a charity event, now some for-profit organizations will hold charity events, and that's fine. But as long as that event is a charity event, not for profit. So keep in mind some of those. You have to make sure that activity you are doing is eligible. So before you actually go out and actually complete your hours, make sure the activity is eligible. And that's it. It's a shorter presentation, but our last message to you is to get out and support your community. I know it's a lot more difficult than it has been in the past, but in many ways, whether it's writing letters to seniors or writing cards to people, I think there's a lot of things that you can uplift and support your community with. So please head out and get those community involvement hours completed and enjoy them. So thank you for listening, and see you around.